so these are some ways that you can like kind of like some tactics that I use when I'm starting from a marketing strategy. I mean, I think everything, like at the end of the day, you have to start with a really firm marketing strategy, which is about like, defining who you are, who you're for, who you're not for, right? Like to your point, I think a lot of wineries are trying to play this middle, like to this middle road, with their marketing. They're scared to alienate people. And I see this a lot generationally. So like, let's ground it into, and this is where brands might get theoretically on this idea that, oh yeah, we're for someone. But then the moment I say, well, if your current, wine club member is a man in his 70s, and that's majority of them, but that the new consumer is a middle-aged woman, you have two different audiences. You need to kind of like take a stand for who you want to be bringing in. And it's a very tricky balance that these wineries are having to toe right now, especially because the consumer is changing rapidly. And the new consumer is a middle-aged woman, and her taste preferences are different.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Barrels and Roots podcast. I am your host, Sean Trace, and I have an awesome return guest with me today. Can you tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly, and I am the owner and founder of Bread and Butter Digital Marketing, and I support wineries mostly. I do occasionally work with other types of businesses, but wineries with their digital marketing. So mostly owning their direct-to-consumer marketing support. And we'll get into some details, but I just launched a group program where I'm helping wineries at a larger scale, at a more accessible price point, to really like get systems and strategy into place in their all of their digital marketing channels. So
that's awesome. Why do you think so many wineries struggle with marketing, even when they have great wine?
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge. I think first of all, majority of wineries are small businesses and small family-run businesses. So I think like it's not necessarily just a winery problem. I think it's a small business problem at the end of the day, right? And initially, when I started my business, I was working with small businesses to help them, increase their brand awareness and increase sales through marketing. I also think that it's like a priority issue. I think a lot of times, and a lot of times, marketing falls to the bottom of the list of priorities. It's seen as a nice to have, not a need to have, which is funny because obviously in order to have a business, you need to sell your wine, you need to sell your product. So it really should be thought of as a must have. But I do think, to be fair to wineries, for many, many years, up until the last several years, it was up. Everything was going well. They didn't really need to rely so heavily on marketing and so heavily on digital because things were moving and product was moving. And now it's just a completely different market. So it really, the brands that I believe are going to win are going to be the ones that are thinking about marketing and thinking about how to connect with audiences and where they are, and utilizing smart, modern marketing tactics.
Yeah, I love it too, because I think that the idea is you can't be everything for everyone, but you do have to figure out how to reach your audience, how to get across to them, and how to connect to them in the right way. If you can really connect to the people that are seeking you out and find your group, then the sky's the limit. But, you can't be everything for everyone. And I wanted to ask you a question, like, what do wine consumers actually want that wineries often fail to understand?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things happening here. So a lot of wine marketing has relied heavily on marketing features, not necessarily. So like, for example, features, when I say marketing features, you're talking about the, makeup of where the wine is grown. You're talking about like how long it's been aged in barrel, et cetera. Like consumers don't really care that much about the features of your product. They care about how your product makes them feel. So if they can focus on feeling a lot more in their marketing messaging and connecting that feeling and like there are many ways to do that. You can do that with storytelling. You can do that with, like lifestyle branding, etc. But I think that that's one thing that a lot of wineries tend to kind of miss the step on is because if you think about it, a lot of wine owners and people who are in decision-making processes, they're like trying to make the best product that they can, and they're absolutely obsessed with that. And this is what I love. Like there's so much passion in the wine industry, but you can get really in the weeds and you can start thinking about like, okay, well, my product is the best because I'm doing it in XYZ way. But the average consumer doesn't actually care about that. Does that make sense?
Totally. They don't really care. They just want to care about the experience. They want to get out and have some fun. They want to enjoy their time with their friends. And like, I mean, it has hints of like mulberry. Man, no one gives a crap. No one cares about that. They care about, is this going to be a fun experience for me and my friends? And that's where I think that the wineries that have tastings that are experiential and fun are really interesting as well. But I mean, I think that you have to realize what people are coming to the table for, And I wanted to ask you that too, because like, why is telling a story more powerful than talking about tasting notes,
Yeah, I mean, it also depends upon the story that you're telling, because let's be honest, a lot of stories sound exactly the same. So I think this is the major work that I do with clients, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do we differentiate you from your competitors? And a lot of that also comes down to like, who's your consumer, who's your customer? And I don't think many small wineries, I mean, I think they know innately who their customer is, but they haven't really done the research. They haven't gone to, their customer reviews and put them into ChatGPT and said, who is my ideal customer? How are they talking about, my brand? And then create a whole identity around this to connect to their consumer. So these are some ways that you can like, kind of like some tactics that I use when I'm starting from a marketing strategy. I mean, I think everything, like at the end of the day, you have to start with a really firm marketing strategy, which is about like, defining who you are, who you're for, who you're not for, right? Like to your point, I think a lot of wineries are trying to play this middle, like to this middle road, with their marketing. They're scared to alienate people. And I see this a lot generationally. So like, let's ground it into, and this is where brands might get theoretically on this idea that, oh yeah, we're for someone. But then the moment I say, well, if your current, wine club member is a man in his 70s, and that's majority of them, but that the new consumer is a middle-aged woman, you have two different audiences. You need to kind of like take a stand for who you want to be bringing in. And it's a very tricky balance that these wineries are having to toe right now, especially because the consumer is changing rapidly. And the new consumer is a middle-aged woman, and her taste preferences are different.
Right. And I wonder if they're even asking the right questions. Are people figuring out the right things that they need to be asking and figuring out how to ask it, and I think that's the thing with marketing. You have to figure out, like, first of all, are you asking the right questions? Are those questions getting you the answers that you need too? Because you might not really know who to ask the questions to, or where are you looking at your metrics? Like, if you're looking at your metrics from what's already existing, when I do my podcast, I sit there and I pay attention to people who are watching them, but there can be things that can skew that, if I'm not paying attention to different, maybe I'm posting on different platforms, but I'm only looking at the YouTube metrics, but I'm completely skipping the fact that there are people consuming what I'm posting on LinkedIn as well, and I think that those are the things that you have to figure out. Where are you actually doing stuff, and are you measuring things correctly? Because sometimes we don't. Sometimes we think we're asking the right question, but we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see this with clients all the time where also like, if you look at each channel is going to skew a little bit differently. So in terms of marketing channel, right, we think about, you can look at like your email list. How different is that from like the people who are following you on Instagram? And Instagram tends to skew more female, to be honest. So, you might start to see that like you have more Instagram followers that are this like, this women versus like your email list might heavily more skew a little bit more 50-50. So it is really interesting. Like, I think that's also another difference. I recently, last week, I think it was last week or the week prior, the SVB report, Silicon Valley Bank report was published. And what was really interesting for me was kind of like the intro and the conclusion to the data was that brands that are willing to take more risks and have this like approach to marketing that is less risk averse, right?
Hmm.
Those are the brands that are winning. And it's down to even like the way that the businesses are making decisions, because you see the businesses that are failing are the ones that have cut costs at all, opportunities, right? So they're just
Hmm.
cutting costs, cutting costs, cutting costs, but they're not getting ahead and they're not actually
Yep.
doing well. The brands that are doing well are the ones that are looking at their consumers and really like truly knowing who their consumers are and trying to create experiences. Because I think this is going to be the next big thing for wineries. I mean, it already is, but people are more
Yep.
interested in experiences and getting together.
I
So
100% agree.
these are the
100%
brands
agree.
that are going to win, the ones that are thinking outside of the box and willing to take more
Yep.
risks.
I 100% agree. And I think that like that trend is already happening. You hear
Yeah.
about wineries that are, and I said this in my last episode of Barrels and Roots, like the winery that can give me, hold on. Excuse me. The winery that
Okay.
can give me, thank you. The winery that can give me like, what they have for puppy yoga, but the winery that can give me wine tasting and puppies, dude, I'm there for that. Like, give me wine tasting and puppies all day. I will come back as often as I can for as many wine glasses as I can and puppies as I can. Like, you
Yes.
have me at hello. I mean, right there,
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I think that it's thinking outside of the box with experiences, it's listening to your customers and what they want. And there's a huge like creativity element too, right? The more creative you can be, the more you can kind of have fun with it. I think we've like forgotten in the wine industry that wine is fun. And I think if we
Right?
bring some fun back, things might change a little bit.
I completely agree. I think that it's gotten too uptight.
Yeah.
I think everyone is stuck on their high horse about the right way, and they're not thinking about what people are actually, needing and what people are actually wanting. And like, here I am, I'm talking about why do I want puppies and wine? Because my days are stressful, because my life, I'm pretty full a lot.
Mhm.
And, maybe you need to see that that's what someone needs right there. Well, what does someone else need? Can you figure that out and answer and create that solution? Because if you can,
Mhm.
there's a whole world available to you.
It's so true. I mean, it even comes down to like product decisions, which I see, in the wine world, there's the hierarchy of the big, bold red as being, the pinnacle of wine superiority, right? Um, and okay, this weekend, I read another really interesting article, which I think anybody listening should 1,000% read. I'm not sure if you read it. It was on Wine Enthusiast. It was by Tyler Ballier. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Did you see this article?
No.
Okay, so Tyler has been working in the wine industry for 20 years or some odd, and she transitioned from male to female, and she
Okay.
documents her changes in her palate and how her tastes changed and how she
Interesting.
experienced wine in a man's body and in a woman's body, and how
Mm,
she's really worried about transitioning and how that would impact her career in the industry. But she said, I mean, there's this one great quote where she says, I could never prepare myself for being a woman in the wine industry.
hmm.
And that was like more impactful. And what was really fascinating, and there's more science that's being poured into this, but if you look at the impact of hormones on taste, there's
Mm,
very different. So um, her exact experience was that she could no longer handle bitter things. So she used to drink black coffee, for
interesting.
example. And then I guess there was a period when she was taking hormones for some months where she didn't have caffeine. I can't remember. She wasn't drinking coffee or she was drinking something else. And then she had a cup of black coffee and she spit it out. She couldn't handle it because it was too bitter for her.
Wow.
Because yeah, her taste had changed. She said 40% of her, like her sense of smell increased by about 40%. So like she could just smell so much more. A wine would hit her nose here and her sense of smell was just so heightened. And so her experience with wine really shifted. And so her preference toward more aromatic whites completely, like that's all she drinks. And even, well, I don't know. I don't want to say that's all she drinks because sorry, go read the article. It's really, really good. I don't want to take credit, but it's sounds like that's like where, her taste preferences shifted because of the hormones. And it's just really fascinating because I think in the wine industry, there is this, and this is something I've been fighting against for years too. Like, sometimes I feel like it falls on deaf ears, but talking about how there's this hierarchy of taste preference and that like, you will mature into enjoying more tannic, bold
Right.
reds that are more bitter. And that's just not necessarily the case.
Right. It's so interesting too, because that is very much something a lot of people assume. Like, oh, you start out with mellow whites and then you move up to these big, bold reds. But you know what? What if you want to settle out to just chilling out with a nice glass of Sauvignon Blanc or something? Like, why not?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go only this way,
Easy drinking. And the reason that I brought this up and like talking about what customers want and products and getting back to like this kind of what I thought was the heart of this article, which was that the wine industry there's only about 15% women in the wine industry in positions in leadership positions, making decisions on like what kind of products we're making, what kind of products, we're pushing, how we're marketing, et cetera. Only 15%. Meanwhile, if you look at the consumer base, they're overwhelmingly women, and majority of women are the ones who are also making household decisions. So this is very interesting. I think that like this is another thing that the wine industry is coming to a head with because somebody like was saying also the beauty industry was in a similar position where it was like the beauty industry for many, many years men were creating beauty products, were creating makeup for women, right? So they were basically dictating how women should look.
Right.
Instead of listening. Sorry, men.
No,
But
I'm the
men,
father of a
obviously.
daughter, and I'm fascinated by that. Like that, there are
Yeah.
people. We drive up the street, and I know it's not a wine podcast thing, but hell, why not? There's a plastic surgery clinic. Vietnam has this more plastic surgery clinics than they have doctors' offices, and there are these big billboards in front of the plastic surgery clinic showing like this doctor who looks like it's just a dude who's never hit the gym in his life. And he's standing in front of this girl and he's smiling and she's just been very much modified. Let's say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just like looking at that going, wow, the double standard right there is extreme. It's wild like that. But, as we're talking about all this, I think one of the things that I want to grab from this, because I think it's super relevant, is that the whole wine world is changing. There is massive change happening right now, and the whole world is changing. But if a winery only had a small budget, where should they spend their first marketing dollars?
Oh, okay. This is a very hard question to ask without knowing exactly the winery. So I'm going to try to think about it in terms of like the brands that I know, and the brands that are just getting started. I would say you have to tighten up your messaging and your branding, right? Like I think that your messaging, your strategy, this needs to be locked in before you do any kind of marketing. Obviously, that's hard when you're a small brand. Maybe you can sort of leverage, I think, if you're savvy and you understand marketing, or if you have someone in your world who has, experience with marketing, you can leverage them and AI. But you have to be very, very clear on like your unique selling proposition, essentially, right? Because if you don't have that basic groundwork, anything you try is going to fail. And then beyond that, I would say, from a digital perspective, you're going to want to have a sophisticated email marketing approach, right? So like email automations, have a good website. This is another thing where people like, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be funneling people in any kind of like um online way, right? Like they're going to be purchasing on your website, right? So your website needs to be functioning and modern. To be honest, it is hard to cut corners. Like it depends upon budget and size, but I would say like there's so many tools right now that you can leverage to make costs a lot lower. But having a smart, optimized website is vital. And then when you're looking at channels, obviously social is important. Ads are important. You can't just do one. You need to have kind of a presence and you need to have some awareness before you can run any
Right.
ads. Like I see clients trying to run ads. It's just doesn't work.
So I got into video a long time ago.
Hmm.
And one of the things I was working for a hair salon,
Mm.
and the hair salon was in the heart of Hollywood. And I went to my boss and I said, "Buy me a flip cam." It's like these old long time ago.
Yeah.
It was like a little square, rectangular camera with a USB port that flipped out, and it didn't film anything fancy. There was no zooms or anything. It just you filmed, and it was vertical, but it filmed horizontal. It was old. Um, with that and iMovie, I made hundreds of videos for this
Wow.
hair salon, right?
Yeah.
Now, what was wild was that my boss was like, "Yes, we're getting great success with these video." So what did they do? I was very affordable, and then I was making high quantity. And
Mm.
they then immediately went out and paid for 4 videos, uh, and they paid like $100,000 for 4 videos. I was like, "You guys just paid
Wow.
$25,000 per video?" And they're like, "Yes, it's a good investment." I was like, "You guys could have paid for me to go to graduate school and make you videos for a large period of time. Like, you just
Yeah.
dropped 100K, you know?" And they were like, "But it's gonna be, we're gonna get a return." And I was like, "Will you? Like, will you? I mean, you're not sure on that yet." And what happened? They didn't get a return on those videos.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was wild because it wasn't what they needed. It wasn't
Yeah.
so, and my point being, if they had have gone out and started paying for those ads and it wasn't great, but they don't have the volume behind it. My last guest came on and she was, bless her heart, she was excited to talk to me. Like, I had a rough day. It was not a fun day, like at
Mm.
all. I will hold back. A family member and friend passed away, and it was
Mm.
just a challenge. And I'm okay, but like when I had someone who suddenly came on my podcast and was like, I saw your episodes. I'm so excited to be here." I was like, "You're excited to be here? That makes me feel good inside, you know?"
Aw. Yeah.
But my point being is like, I've done enough episodes now that I've got so much content online. I've got so many shorts online that she's like, "I watch everything you do. I feel like I know you." And I was just like, right there, if I ran
Yeah.
ads, there's enough other stuff that people will find that it
Yeah.
keeps it going. But if you don't
Right.
have a social presence and you're going out there and you're trying to do paid advertising, but there's nothing else for people to see once they find you, man, it's wasted money. And I stand by that.
Yeah, I stand by that too. I mean, I've seen it too with brands that are, like, that either don't have a tasting room or don't have like a presence in store, and they just want to run ads. That did work back in 2022,
Yep.
2023, when meta ads were cheap and people were like excited to purchase wine online. Maybe even 2021. Now it's a completely different thing. People are not buying like as much wine on through meta ads only, right? You need to be like everywhere. And you need to also think about it more strategically too. Like one thing that was really also interesting about the SVB report was, right, like majority of family owned wineries in the States are making their sales direct to consumer. That doesn't mean
Yep.
online necessarily, right? That means they're driving sales through their tasting room and through their wine club.
Yep.
That's 70% of their sales. So how do you attract people to the wine club? Okay, well, you get them on site. You get them to the
Yeah.
tasting room. Cool. How do you attract people to the tasting room? That is the question. And people are not so willing in the industry, I think, to like do the things that you need to do to get them into the tasting room. And it is harder. There's more competition. It's super expensive in places like you look at Napa, and the
Right.
prices are like sky high. And so like tourism is just, it's a hard channel. If you're in a newer region like Virginia, for example, like it's even that there's more and more competition every year because a new winery is opening up. And so it's really, really challenging. But I think the answer is you have to do everything. And I hate saying that because people want like when I go on calls with people, they're like, I want a magic wand. And trust me, I have a business. I want a magic wand too. Like, I would love to just do one thing and know that it's the one thing that brings me clients. But unfortunately, we live in a place where we live in a time where people need like 8, maybe even more. The research is murky, but like 8 to 15 touch points before they decide to purchase a product or to go somewhere, right? Like to visit you.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
Yeah, if you're not showing up online, like how are they going to find out about you? Like if you think about it, word of mouth, press, but you need to be showing up socially, I think. I mean, more and more of our
A hundred
social.
percent. 100%. Well, and I wanted to ask you that, like, because I think it plays into the next question. What separates the wineries that are growing with the wineries that are falling behind?
So I mean, obviously, I'm a marketer. The ones that I believe are growing are the ones that have taken marketing seriously. I
Hmm.
actually just talked with. This is a great uh, case for me, right? I talked with a winery in up north. Sorry, like the Finger Lakes. Okay.
Okay.
I had a conversation with them, and they're growing their wine club. They're growing foot traffic, and everybody around them is like kind of it's going down. And the one thing that they've done, they've invested in marketing. They have an in-house marketer. They are doing like slowly, methodically, they're creating marketing systems. They have invested in a website. They've invested in smart email marketing and email marketing campaigns. They are showing up on social media. I believe they're starting to do some advertising as well. So they're literally doing everything. And this is, this is the thing that will separate the people who are winning from the people who are losing, I believe, right? Having smart tools
100%.
and hiring smart people.
100% agree. I want to ask you this, like, I'm fascinated by the clubs. Like, why do you believe community, though, is more important than traditional wine clubs,
Yeah, well, it's generational. So
Yeah.
if you look at like the way that each generation interacts with the world, cares about products, like you look at middle-aged people, they are way less interested in a discount. They don't really, that's not a selling point for them. Older people, yes. Like if you're over 60, I hate to say this, but if you're like a boomer, discounts are great. They want them. It's awesome. Of course, people like discounts, but I think like if you look at someone who is middle aged, there's more competition for them outside of even the wine industry, right? Like their lives are very full.
Yeah.
They're raising kids, young kids, most of them. They have demanding careers. A lot of them are living in like major cities. They have a lot of things going on. Of course, they want a discount, but like they're getting offered discounts in many, many places. They want to do something unique. They want to be part of something interesting. And if you look at it too, like if you look at the data around social clubs, like social clubs are on the rise. There's more and more social clubs being like popping up. People are want to join communities. I think that we are simultaneously like more isolated than we've ever been because of the online culture and more interested in connecting. Now, it's nuanced, but I think this is like at the end of the day, this is why people in like that middle-age bracket want to engage in something that's like cool and fun and hip and not like like this dusty like club that like their parents are part of. It's just like not something they're interested in. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. I mean, but it's about being interesting. It's about talking about things that are interesting. Like, are you just saying, hi, we're here to talk about what terroir is? Dude, no, we're here to try 5 crazy wines today. And this is what you're going to find out by the end of this episode. Let's check it out and see which one of these wines gets me the most fucked up. I mean, wow,
Yeah.
God, that might actually be a more interesting episode than just like, today I am trying this wine and it has hints of strawberries. It says, dude, I had this wine and Jesus Christ, it's hitting hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know you want to be classy. I know you want to get there, but like the reality is like, can you hook people? Can you pull them in? Like, we live in a time when people are needing to demand on attention. You pull in with that attention and then you deliver value, but you got to get them through the front door. If you're not getting that attention, it's really hard,
Definitely. I mean, it's interesting too because I think there's such a conservative approach in the wine industry. I've seen it with clients. Like I've had clients who've literally like stopped me at almost every point of like trying to innovate, and it can be very frustrating, to be honest, because it's wasted money. If you ask me, like, don't hire a marketer if you're going to say no. I don't like no,
Right.
which is a lot of times. I mean, not everybody's like that, but I do notice that is a very common thread. It's very conservative, leaning, hesitant group typically. And again, the data and the research is saying you need to shift your approach to this. And I mean, if you look at like other alcoholic beverages, like they take bigger swings with their marketing, they take bigger risks. And like for a long time there, consumers were gravitating toward them. They're also easier to understand. Like a cocktail menu is easier to understand than like wine tasting notes. Like sometimes people just like literally don't even get like, I mean, somebody was like a red currant. I mean, I don't think I've ever eaten a red currant, and I'm in the industry.
Right.
What are they on? I don't know. I mean, maybe I've had it in one dessert at one point, but like it's not part of my syntax. It's not something that I'm consuming regularly, and I can guarantee. I mean, that's me in the industry and someone who like my dad's a chef. I grew up in fine dining. Like I've been to Michelin star restaurants. Like I have experienced elegant, beautiful, delicious food, and I still have a hard time with tasting notes occasionally.
You and me both. I am blown away by the tasting notes that they have, and I'm just like, where are you guys going with this? I want to ask you one last question though, because if you could give every winery owner one piece of advice about the future of wine, what would it be?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I think I'm going to piss some people off, but I think the future is female. I think the future is female, at least the immediate future. If you look at where everything is heading, I think that the smartest wineries right now are the ones that are catering toward that toward women. Women have more buying power. Look at if you look even at the generation below me, I'm a millennial. If you look at the generation below me, unfortunately, like young men are struggling financially. They're struggling in many ways, and young women are accelerating and they're doing better. And I think, they are your consumer base. They are going to be the main consumer base, and the brands that can speak directly to those brands and that are speaking directly to those brands are the ones that are winning. Like, look at Abilene. Look at, there's another, I can't remember, the McBride sisters. Like these brands are killing it, and McBride sisters are speaking directly to Black women too. Like they have their niche down. So I think, also it's not just women too. The US is changing demographically. Like as we talk about, they're talking to Black women. Like think about this, like the demographics are shifting. You're no longer, your consumer now might be like an older white man, but in 5, 10, 15 years from now, I don't think it will be.
Right. And I think that that's one of the things that you have to embrace change. And at the end of
Yeah,
the day, for wineries, for whoever, you got to embrace that change. So, I
absolutely.
want to ask one last question. Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Yes. So I think the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn, or my website, which is breadandbutterdigitalmarketing.com. It's a long one. And as I mentioned, I'm doing this winery growth lab. So I just want to plug it really fast. It's a
Please
6 month
do.
program. Yeah, it's a 6 month program where I'm meeting with small family owned wineries for one time a week. Plus, they're going to have like access to me for Q&A, and I'm guiding them through absolutely everything that they need to strategize and implement for marketing their brand, all the way from like the messaging core to email marketing to wine club growth to social media management and advertising. And we'll cover the holiday season too. So it launches very, very soon. So if they're interested, they definitely need to send me a DM to learn more.